Welcome to episode 30 of What's That Bird? What's That Bird is the show where we use any technique to identify a bird, including the force. And I'm happy to say that What's That Bird has several submissions in its queue from viewers around the world. So if you want your bird identified, please submit it to this email address. But now without further ado, let's look at the mystery bird. This picture was taken by viewer Oliver Stucker, and he took it at Virginia Lake in St. John's, Newfoundland. That's right, another bird from Canada. In his email, Oliver wrote, "I suspect it could be a sandpiper, but which one? The eBird Merlin app thinks it may be a spotted sandpiper, though it doesn't have spots. However, a solitary sandpiper has been reported at that location over the past days as well. So, is this bird a sandpiper? Let's find out." Now, whatever this bird is, one thing is for certain. It's a shorebird. And shorebirds are notorious for being difficult to identify. But that is not going to stop us, now is it? In fact, I've been identifying shorebirds since before your daddy was born, so I'm certain I can identify this shorebird. So let's talk a little bit about shorebirds. It's true that many people have many different techniques to identify shorebirds. Some are quite rational and are based on things like the bill shape and plumage, while other people tend to use their intuition. However, as a first step in the process of elimination, I like to look at two features. And the first feature is actually the texture of the plumage on the back of the bird. Now, this texture can vary from bird to bird and whether the bird is in breeding or non-breeding plumage, but generally, I like to check whether this bird has a very speckled appearance, as can be seen in this example of the far eastern curlew, or whether it has a much more smooth appearance, as in the case of the mystery bird. Because the mystery bird has such a smooth plumage on its back, it rules out birds like the wood sandpiper, for example. So before we analyze any further, let's ask ourselves, how many shorebirds can be seen where this bird was seen that have this kind of plumage? Now, when we make the list of possibilities, let's not rule out too many birds. Let's only rule out the birds with an extremely speckled plumage in all breeding and non-breeding cases. So what I'm going to do is flip through the bird guide and quickly make a list of any birds that look approximately like this bird and have approximately this plumage. It's okay if we add a few birds that probably aren't this bird. It's better to be safe than sorry. Now that we have our list of 6 birds, let's go back and eliminate them one by one. Now what about the red knot? In the adult non-breeding phase, the red knot does have a somewhat smooth plumage, but the plumage is gray, and furthermore, in all cases, the red knot has a lot of markings below the body. The red knot's bill is also uniformly dark, so not the red knot. But what about the sanderling? Well, the sanderling looks kind of like the mystery bird, but its plumage is all gray, and it also has uniformly dark legs, so it's also not the sanderling. Pretty much the same reasoning applies to the semi-palmated sandpiper. Well, does anyone even know what semi-palmated means? I certainly don't. The next possibility is the spotted sandpiper, and this was one of Oliver's guesses. The mystery bird in fact looks a lot like the spotted sandpiper, so let's keep that one on the list and come back to it later. The willet? Why did I even put this bird on the list? The final candidate to examine is the solitary sandpiper. It too looks somewhat like the mystery bird, so in fact, the final 2 guesses are indeed the 2 birds that Oliver mentioned, the solitary sandpiper and the spotted sandpiper. So what are some things that distinguish the spotted sandpiper from the solitary sandpiper? Now it is true that in this picture of the solitary sandpiper, the plumage is quite mottled. However, in its adult non-breeding phase, the plumage of the solitary sandpiper can be more smooth. Nonetheless, in all cases, the solitary sandpiper always has a bit of small white spotting on the tail. The spotted sandpiper also has a fairly distinct eye line, whereas the solitary sandpiper has more of an eye ring. The spotted sandpiper also has a fairly distinct barring pattern on its wing. This is not the case for the solitary sandpiper. Although there are a few other differences between the spotted sandpiper and the solitary sandpiper, I think we can say now that the mystery bird looks a lot more like the spotted sandpiper. One question of course remains. Why is this spotted sandpiper and the mystery bird not spotted? Well, the spotted sandpiper really only develops its very distinctive spots in its breeding plumage, which typically happens from April to August, whereas the 2 spotted sandpipers shown here are in their non-breeding plumage. From this discussion, I am confident in saying that the mystery bird is the spotted sandpiper. Due to the many unique features of the spotted sandpiper, I'm willing to give this identification a probability rating of 98%. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What's That Bird, and I'll see you again next time.